Hello, everybody, and welcome to an episode of United Talks Podcast. And today we're going to be dissecting what I would call the Carrick Code. What does Carrick bring? What does Michael Carrick bring to Manchester United? So I'll call this the Carrick Code, and how Michael Carrick will intend to rebuild Manchester United for the derby. Now, if you think Michael Carrick is just some kind of like a placeholder or a vibes appointment to calm the waters after Ruben Amorim's sacking, maybe you haven't been watching Middlesbrough over the last 3 years. But then you have to also think about the motive behind getting a manager when you know that there are visible holes in that midfield, in that team, and all of that. There are opportunities where the team needs to grow and evolve. But then obviously Ineos have done what Ineos does. But then let's try to give Michael Carrick some benefit of the doubt, some kind of like a clear understanding of what he stands for as a manager, and give him some hope. And kind of try to spin some positives from what Ineos has done, because obviously, if we're going to kind of take a cue from what Ineos is doing, we might probably, kind of just blame them for everything that has been going on, which is what we're doing. But on the other hand, let's kind of spin the positives and kind of see what we can get out of Michael Carrick. So, welcome to the reaction show. We're basically going to be reacting and pretty much analyzing Michael Carrick's style of play, what he brings to Man United, and what next for Man United in regards to that. Obviously, like I said in yesterday's video and videos I released, Michael Carrick is basically going to be facing a baptism of fire. Basically, going to be facing a baptism of fire at Manchester United when he comes in as manager. So these are the things. These are the things we're going to be looking at. These are the things we're going to be analyzing, and these are the things we're going to be breaking down. So yeah, Michael Carrick has joined Man United. It's been announced. It's official now. So let's get right into it. So like I said, if you have been watching, if you think Michael Carrick is kind of like your vibes guy, basically you've not been watching Middlesbrough, because Middlesbrough over the last 3 years, they have been, before he was let go in 2025, because obviously he didn't qualify. Michael Carrick isn't walking into Carrington to tell players just to enjoy themselves, like obviously recent managers, including someone like Darren Fletcher. He's walking in with a laptop full of some of the most sophisticated modern tactical blueprints in European football. Right. Yeah, albeit his experience is basically from the championship. But then they call his style, this is basically from research out there, they call his style the Middlecelona, basically, kind of like his way of playing for a reason, right? Right? They call his style the Middlecelona. That's Middlesbrough and Barcelona together. It's a high possession, fluid, an incredibly smart system that turns a standard 4-2-3-1 into a nightmare for opposition managers. Hopefully, that is what the case would be. And he has exactly 3 days to install it before the Manchester derby. He has 3 days exactly to install that formation or that style of play before the Manchester derby. Now, the question isn't just whether Carrick can steady the ship or whether he can actually get us going or stuff. It's whether he can use his unique asymmetric system to do what Amorim couldn't. As people have touted, get the best out of Matheus Cunha, unlock Benjamin Šeško, or finally get Kobbie Mainoo the midfield partner he deserves. And today, we're doing a deep dive, as I always say, doing a deep dive into the Carrick Code. And that's what we're going to call it now. And I think we're just pretty much going to call it the Carrick Code all along. Moving on from here, just to kind of add so a name, or name it, just as we would say, Oli Ball, Amorim Ball, this is the Carrick Code. We are breaking down the formation, the specific player roles, and the tactical trap he's setting for Pep Guardiola, hopefully, this weekend. So let's get right into it. Let's break it down and all of that. So the first part of this video is basically the asymmetric blueprint, that is solving the fullback puzzle. That is where we talk about the fullbacks Man United has. But when I mention fullbacks, what most people think about is someone like Diogo Dalot. But let's talk about it anyway, because people don't like Diogo Dalot and they've scapegoated him. So let's talk about it. Now, to understand Michael Carrick's system or Michael Carrick's team, you have to throw the traditional lineup graphic out the window. On paper it looks like a 4-2-3-1, but in reality, it's a shape-shifting machine. So we're trying to be, like I said, as positive as we can be to give Michael Carrick the chance he needs to thrive and hold him by the high standards that other managers of the past, Man United, have been held. Now at Middlesbrough, Carrick, so we're going to piggyback off of his experience and his coaching stint at Middlesbrough. Carrick perfected a move inspired by maybe Xavi's Barcelona, if you can call it that. He plays with one what you call the stay fullback. So one stay fullback and one fly fullback. We are breaking this down and reacting to it just as we have done our research and our deep dives, as we always do in this channel. In this Manchester United squad, the roles are perfectly cast. Now, first and foremost, we use, for example, someone like Noussair Mazraoui. He's the ideal candidate for the right back role that tucks inside. So that's your stay fullback, right? When United has the ball, Mazraoui, won't be overlapping. He'll be moving centrally to form a back three alongside Matheus Cunha and Lisandro Martinez. Okay. So like I said, we are breaking it down as much as we can based off of what we've watched last season. And you watch it and then you break it down based off of what you can analyze. So like I said, the stay fullback is Noussair Mazraoui. He tucks into the defense to form a back three with De Ligt and Licha if he's playing in the back three, or Maguire and Licha, or Euro and Licha, or Euro and Heaven, whatever the combination. He tucks in, and Noussair Mazraoui is also a very good player when it comes to playing in a back three system or a back four system, depending on what you see. So he tucks in with, for example, Licha and De Ligt. This allows the left back, likely Patrick Dorgu or a returning Luke Shaw, to push incredibly high, effectively becoming a left winger. That sounds very familiar, but it is what it is. So now, like I said, it's the Carrick Code, but it is a twisted version of what we had in the past. And I'm not going to mention it because obviously everyone's going to say cliche, right? Now, this is the Carrick trap, and that is what we're going to be talking about. So the Carrick Code involves what you call the Carrick trap. By creating a back three in possession, United becomes much harder to counterattack against. This is what we've seen at Middlesbrough. So it is a direct fix for the Red Sea, right? That's setting a Carrick trap by creating a back three in possession. United becomes much harder to counter-attack against. A direct fix for the Red Sea gaps that we saw under previous managers, especially under Darren Fletcher in the last 2 games. Now it gives the team a solid foundation of 3 elite defenders while simultaneously flooding the final third with 5 attacking players. So it gives you that 3-2-5 formation in attack based off of what we've seen in Middlesbrough. Now we've talked about the defense. So he has a stay fullback and a flying wing back or flying fullback, who eventually effectively becomes a wing back. So it makes the left side heavy. So I'm seeing a lot of things, a lot of patterns here, right? So you have your Noussair Mazraoui as your right back, who is a stay fullback who has played in that position before, and then he tucks in and becomes a back three in possession. That works. Now in midfield, which is unlocking more like, say for example, freeing Kobbie Mainoo. So free Kobbie Mainoo, unlocking Kobbie Mainoo. It's kind of like what we'll call the midfield box. perhaps, which is the most exciting part of this appointment. And the question that is on everybody's lips is what this means for Kobbie Mainoo. Now, Michael Carrick, one of the most intelligent midfielders of his generation, and his system is built to protect and project players like Mainoo. So, which means that for Mainoo to thrive, Mainoo needs protection. Now, Carrick likes to use a midfield box, by tucking the right back inside and having his 10, Bruno Fernandes, drop slightly deeper into the pockets to create a diamond or a square in the center of the pitch. That sounds very familiar. So you have your right back who is tucking in to become a 3 at the back in possession, and then still playing that same role as tucking into midfield to create a 4 in midfield. Now, we're breaking it down further by saying the structure is designed to dominate the ball. So for Mainoo, this means he'll always have a passing option if he's playing, and then he won't be left isolated to do it all in transition, like we saw in the game against that was the last game we played against Brighton. It was isolated, the midfield was so open, and it was really difficult for us to basically unlock Kobbie Mainoo according to, because the truth is I'm seeing it. The past managers have seen it. The past managers have said it, that basically Kobbie Mainoo needs to wait or bide his time to be able to find the opportunity to play for Manchester United. But then, obviously, the media and their agenda and their ideas will not let this guy basically thrive. Right, but it is what it is. Now, Carrick likes a midfield box, like I said. The structure is designed to dominate the ball, like I said. And for Mainoo, it means you always have a passing option. But Carrick's system at Middlesbrough relied on 2 6s. It sounds very familiar. 2 6s who were technically secure. So with Casemiro or Ugarte sitting next to Mainoo and Mazraoui providing that extra body nearby, United will suddenly have numbers to play through City's press rather than just kicking it long and hoping for the best. That is what is expected against City. But I'm not saying that this can be implemented and this will happen almost immediately. Now, Carrick's goal is to control. He wants to dictate the tempo. And in Mainoo, he has the perfect apprentice to execute that vision on the pitch. Like I said, I'm trying to be positive considering what has gone on at Manchester United. So when I did this research, I tried to find what could make this Michael Carrick's 17-game stint a positive one for Man United. And this was taking a cue from what he did at Middlesbrough. Now, let's talk about the biggest problem in the squad. Now, we are going to title this kind of aspect of this video as the inverting winger. That is kind of like saving Matheus Cunha. Let's talk about the biggest problem in the squad, Matheus Cunha. Like under Fletcher and the late stage of Amorim's era, Cunha had looked lost on the wing, especially under Fletcher, struggling with heavy touches and a lack of involvement, especially in the game against Burnley where he was struggling. And then when he decided to come back and try to make himself an outlet, it became easier for him to get involved. Carrick's system has a specific cure for this Cunha situation because the left back, Dorgu or Shaw, provides all the width on the left, and the left winger is given a license to invert. That left winger is going to be potentially Matheus Cunha. Now, in Carrick's Middlecelona or Middlesbrough team setup, Cunha won't be asked to beat a man on the touchline. He will be instructed to move into the half space and the area between the opposition's right back and centre back, and this turns Cunha into a second 10. Sounds very familiar? Or a shadow striker, playing right behind Benjamin Šeško. Now, this is where Cunha is most likely and most dangerous, right? It takes away the defensive responsibility of tracking the winger and puts him in positions where he can run and slide passes through to Šeško. Now, this is kind of like the Bruno-esque kind of role, which Bruno can also play. This tactical shift is designed to turn Cunha from a frustrated winger into a creative hub. Now, as I'm talking to you, you can try and be imagining it in specific, we're talking about specific roles of players in this team. Now, by flooding those central areas with Bruno, Cunha, Šeško, Carrick actually forces the opposition defenders into impossible choices. The question is, do they stay with the striker or do they step out to engage the two creative geniuses floating in the pockets? That's the question. Now, like I said to you, it sounds very familiar. It sounds like something that we've seen happen before, but in a very different way. Now, which takes us to the next part. And we're going to use the precedent of the 2021 situation where he had that unbeaten run of 3 games where he won 2, one in the Champions League or Europa League, one in Europe. That's what we're going to say. One in Europe, and then he drew against Chelsea and Arsenal. So we're going to take a cue from that and why he is the unbeaten caretaker, right? Now, skeptics will say that championship tactics won't work in a Manchester derby, and that's facts. Because in truth, whether you're skeptical or you're confident, championship cannot translate to Premier League. Sometimes it does, but you see managers like Daniel Farke, come with leads with their flair, attacking, counter-attacking style of football. But when they came to the Premier League, they started with a back 4, and when things started getting tough, they switched to a back 5. So, yeah. But then, why is Carrick the unbeaten caretaker, and what is the plan? We've seen Carrick do this before at the highest level when a manager was sacked in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. In 2021, after Ole was sacked, Carrick took over for 3 games and he faced Villarreal away, Chelsea away, and Arsenal at home, and he didn't lose a single one. And that's the benchmark or the hinge in which everybody is holding Carrick to standard, especially if he had coached Man United before. In those games, we saw the tactical Carrick emerge. Against Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, he was brave enough to drop Cristiano Ronaldo to ensure that the team had a defensive energy required to sit in a compact block. Now, he showed that he isn't afraid of big games or big reputations, and he prioritizes the system over the stars, right? Against Manchester City this weekend, we expect kind of like the same pragmatism, right? Pragmatism, rather. Get my words out. Pragmatism. While he wants to play, possession football, dictate play, control, and all of those things, he knows that against Pep Guardiola, you have to be able to suffer. We've heard those words before. And his Borough teams were excellent at transitioning into a 4-4-1-1 mid-block. Sounds very familiar as well. 4-4-1-1 mid-block when out of possession, making them incredibly difficult to break down. Carrick's unbeaten record isn't a fluke. It was a result of his ability to identify exactly what a specific game needs and communicating that clearly to his players. But then from 2021 to now, Arsenal have changed. They've evolved. Chelsea have evolved. Albeit they're going through managers, but then they've evolved. Other teams have evolved. Many teams have grown. Arsenal have grown and all of that. So it will be interesting to see how he communicates that to his players. But then that is what the situation is. Now, the final section of this video, of this analysis, breaking down Michael Carrick's style of play and all that, is the no-nonsense mentality, which we're going to talk about here. Now, one of the criticisms of his current squad, is that they've become maybe sentimental or nervous. And Carrick, as the man who had won 5 Premier League titles and a Champions League, brings an aura of been there, done that, and he's already, identified Jonathan Woodgate to join his staff, a man who shares his no-nonsense approach to defending. Carrick message to the players is likely to be a simple one. The talent is there, but the discipline is a non-negotiable. Now, he's expected to give the players 2 days off to clear their heads, which obviously the club had already done, like giving them 3 days actually off to clear their heads of the Brighton disaster. But when they return on Wednesday, which is as of the time of watching today, the focus will be entirely on the pitch, on the details, and all of that. He's a coach who is obsessed over, the half yard of positioning. And for a team that kind of looked structurally broken, that obsession basically with detail is exactly what is needed to survive a derby like that. Like, to be a broken team after losing to Brighton in the FA Cup and crashing out in 2 cups. There is no, like, these guys don't have like anything left. Now, before we go, I'm going to touch on a little bit, like, on something Henrietta posted on X with regards to his assistant or one of his coaches in the backroom staff, and that is in the person of Steve Holland. We're going to do a bit of a deep dive into Steve Holland from Henrietta's post on X and basically explain, based on what we've seen Steve Holland do, just to give you a hint of an idea of the kind of coach that Steve Holland is. Steve Holland is a shrewd appointment as assistant manager to assistant coach to Michael Carrick, and as Michael Carrick, who is interim Manchester United's interim head coach. He's a very good coach, according to Aaron Winter here. Anyone who's watched Holland oversee a meticulously prepared training session knows he's innovative. It makes sessions enjoyable. This sounds like vibes anyway. Makes sessions enjoyable, and also that he's very demanding. He talks a lot about the importance of players, transferring details, drills and patterns of play, etc. more easily into games through very game-focused training. That's the kind of coach you call a pragmatist, right? He brings 33 years of coaching experience and a different voice like Jonathan Woodgate to other coaches like Johnny Evans and Travis Binion, and to Carrick himself, with United in their CV and DNA. Now, when you talk of CV and DNA, because when I hear Man United DNA, when I hear Man United CV, yeah, I can understand the CV part because Michael Carrick has coached at Man United before. But when you hear stuff like Man United DNA, I don't think Michael Carrick has the Man United DNA. Maybe he has the DNA by association, but not by birth. And you might be saying, what's this guy talking about? I know from my experience as a biotechnologist that DNA is from birth. You inherit that DNA from birth, right? So, for example, if you're going to talk about My United DNA starts from basically the academy. So someone is brought into the academy as a 6-year-old, 7-year-old. He grows with the academy and understands the DNA of the club, the fabrics of the club, the threads and the needle of the club, and then grows with that club into the first team and eventually becomes a Man United player through and through. Now, what are the players you can call that you say he has the Man United DNA in him? But obviously, with attitude and character and when things have happened over the last couple of years, you could tell that it doesn't go well, especially when it comes to how he approached his time with Ruben Amorim, is Kobbie Mainoo of recent. Then you could also say someone like Chelsea has the Man United DNA because started at a very young age of Man United. You could talk about another player who has the Man United DNA in, Scott McTominay. But when you now talk about Man United DNA and you mention maybe Michael Carrick was bought into Man United from Tottenham Hotspur. So, I think 2005. So, Man United DNA, does he have it? Maybe by association. Maybe by DNA, gene splicing. So I'm using terms in biotechnology and genetics. Genetic splicing, where you take a particular trait or part of a DNA that you want and splice it with another DNA to get them to express specific characteristics and traits. But that's what I'm talking about. we're going into like details and analysis and giving an example. Now, Michael Carrick, Steve Holland, we're talking about, is used to dealing with pressure and egos. He is tough, and you wouldn't want to cross Holland. So he's got a steely, challenging look in the eye. He will demand total concentration in training. He's reportedly made a barhead comment, a barbed. No. Let's call this a barbed comment. So he's reportedly made a barbed comment towards Ben White at England training in Qatar 2022 over not being similarly obsessed with football. Story disputed, but White returned home and hasn't played for England since 2022. Now, there is no doubt about Holland's own obsession with football, but he's not had an easy path to the top. Injured young at Derby, began coaching at 22, pro license at 27, spent 17 years at Crewe, a spell at Stoke, then 8 years at Chelsea, worked under Ancelotti, Di Matteo, Martinez, Mourinho, Gus Hiddink, and Antonio Conte. He's won Champions Leagues and 2 titles. He learned Spanish, very popular in the dressing room, and Fabregas hailed his meticulous training brain or meticulous coaching brain. Also praised for his role in helping Di Matteo and Eddie Newton devise the counter-attacking game plan to frustrate Bayern Munich in 2012 Champions League final. Now, Benitez and Mourinho both brought in their own staff, but kept on the highly regarded Steve Holland. Now, Chelsea, sad to lose Holland to England, and at their end of season dinner in 2017, presented him with a designer luggage for his travels. Now, assisted Gareth Southgate with England under 21s and then the seniors, helping them to reach 2 Euro finals and 1 World Cup semi-final. Southgate always modestly said Holland's strengths made up for his own weaknesses. Holland's appointment does not mean Southgate's going to United in the summer. And that is what maybe I've seen some people touted that maybe Holland is trying to, because I thought about it too as well. Like, you get Holland, who is basically Gareth Southgate's second man, right-hand man, and then he comes and steadies the ship for Southgate to come in, because obviously I hear that Jason Wilcox is of the opinion that we should get Gareth Southgate, or is obsessed with Gareth Southgate or something. I don't know. But like I said, Henrietta is saying here that it does not mean that Southgate is going to United in the summer, but we will see and we'll observe. Now, the last part of this piece by Henry Winter is that Holland praised for his England work, helping young players settle in and develop, liked by players, respected for his training, admired his focus that everything is about winning. Now, he's not a number one. He lasted only 4 months at Yokohama F. Marinos, 1 win out of 11 league, so he's not a number one. So some people are good at training but not good at being number one. Holland's an outstanding number 2, intelligent appointment. Now, this is what basically Henry Winter is saying. I'm kind of wishing Steve Holland a good luck at Man United. Now, to wrap up this whole thing, because I had to give you that aspect of the coaching staff. Jonathan Woodgate, good defender in the past. Heard so many wild stories about him and stuff, which we're not going to go into. We're not going to go into details. Heard some other things as well, but then you have to think about the other people that are in the coaching staff. I heard his brother Gareth Carrick is there in the coaching staff. I also heard, obviously, Travis Binion, and you have Travis Binion, you have Johnny Evans. Travis Binion, under 21's coach, He's been there. He's quite experienced with dealing with players. Then you have Johnny Evans, who just recently played under Bernard Rim, so can transition and kind of merge things and match things up for the players. So we will observe, we will see, we will break it down, we will analyze. But excuse me, this is what we're basically going to be talking about. Now, Michael Carrick is going to work under pressure. He's walking into a firestorm. He's bringing a fire extinguisher made of pure tactical logic, which I hope he's able to translate within 24 to 40, no, 30, 48 to 72 hours. He has the blueprint to fix the defense with symmetry, the plan to unlock the midfield with the box, and the vision to save Matheus Cunha by moving him inside, as he has suffered over 2 games, not playing really well. This isn't just about getting through the end of the season. It's an audition to show that the next great English manager has been right under United's nose all along. This could probably be an audition for him to kind of be in the running for the job, for the manager job, because I've been seeing a whole lot of chatter online about De Zerbi and Tuchel being lined up to take over Manchester United. Tuchel, I can understand, but he's coaching at England, so I don't know. We're not going to hear anything until the end of the World Cup if he's going to stay on. And then De Zerbi, pretty much Premier League proven. He's coached at Brighton. He's currently the Lyon Marseille manager. So, yeah. The Manchester Derby is the ultimate test. And the question is, can the tactical architect outsmart the master in Pep Guardiola? The Carrick Code is about to be put to the test. Now, I think also with Steve Holland, with Jonathan Woodgate, and Carrick putting their heads together with Travis Binion and Johnny Evans, it will be very interesting to see how they line up or prepare themselves for that game. So let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Do you think Michael Carrick is going to turn up? Do you think he's going to do great things with this team and all of that? But yeah, like I said, we're going to be doing more deep dives. We're going to be doing more analysis. But yeah, I just thought to bring you this to kind of explain, Michael Carrick's style, his strengths and his risk and his coaching profile. Then you can make of it what you will. But for me, I would say Michael Carrick is one I can try to back and just kind of understand where it's coming from and kind of take it to the next level from there. So let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comment section. Thank you so much for watching. If you like these kinds of analysis, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't have to miss anything as it relates to Manchester United. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for getting to this point with me. I'll see you on the next one. Take care, goodbye, and God bless.